You're listening to Pipebomb Radio with your host, the founder, Felix Olmedo.
The Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour.
And the Godfather, Nate Milton.
Godfather's in the house.
You're welcome.
Do I have everybody's attention now? This capacity crowd coming up to its feet. They want to get a look at.
Out of Austin, Texas, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Dream. Dusty Rhodes, born Virgil Runnels, he was the son of a plumber, a common man who in life achieved greatness. A man who stood for the people and the principles of our great nation. A wrestler who wore his heart on his sleeve, and a hero who fought for those who believed in the dream. The American dream.
A man who has figuratively set the wrestling world on fire. Mr. Soul, Mr. Charisma, Mr. Dusty Rhodes.
It was like something instantly hit the people.
And the winner crowd now is for the American Dream.
They loved Dusty Rhodes because he was one of the people.
When I was growing up, I sure didn't think 265 pounds of blue-eyed soul would captivate a country like a hell.
That was my deal with the fans. If I was winning, they were winning.
Dusty Rhodes has done it! New World Heavyweight Champion! The American Dream! Dusty Rhodes!
Dusty Rhodes was one of the greatest performers in the history of our business.
The greatest sports attraction in the world today, the little plumber's son who come out of the ditch at 8 years old and became so sweet.
He was the blue-collar man.
In hard times, or when a man has worked at a job 30 years, they give him a watch, kick him in the butt, and say, hey, a computer took your place, Daddy. That's hard times.
And all the things that he said, he actually felt with a passion. And that came out of him, and I think people see that.
I am the hit maker, the record breaker. I have wined and dined with kings and queens, and I've slept in alleys and dined on pork and beans.
He just oozed charisma.
He has a career that most of us only dream about.
Get a dream, hold on to it, and shoot for the sky.
We are proud to induct Dusty Rhodes as a member of the 2007 WWE Hall of Fame.
I knew there was an American dream out there somewhere, and I was going to go out and get it.
Long live the American dream. Long live Dusty Rhodes.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Pipebomb Radio tonight. Back at our regularly scheduled time. Can you imagine that? But tonight we actually pay tribute to the one, the only, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who passed away about 2.5 weeks ago. The man led a legendary career, and we're going to go over that. We're going to play some clips from his classic career, his legendary career. We're going to play, you know what, I even go one further. Nate and myself will definitely give our maybe top 5, top 10 moments in Dusty's career, because he's had an amazing one at that. How you doing, Nate?
I am doing good, brother Felix, ready to get down, party down, boogie fever, and get funky like a monkey, if you will.
Can you dig it? I can dig it. Tonight, we got a lot of classic clips. I got, before Elio took off for his vacation, I had him send me some very classic clips from not only his WWE days, but his Mid-Atlantic days, his NWA/WCW days. A lot of good stuff, and fans are welcome to call in tonight and share their favorite moments. Dusty inspired a generation, many generations, in fact, and when it was something about his aura, that his attraction, that people were drawn to him, because he was like a common person that you would see walking down the street, and it wasn't even, as Cody put it, he was certainly how do you say? It's not uncommon to be as common as he. I don't know how he said that, but it was cool to be common, I guess you could say. Back then, back in the heyday, back when Dusty was just killing it, going and doing the 1-hour matches with guys like Nate and Harley Race and Superstar Billy Graham and Tully Blanchard, and man, I can go on. And yeah, he had a great career, and I wanted to play that one for the Hall of Fame, because I felt like it was a good one. I didn't get in time to get that one that the WWE created for him. As by that time, Elio had already left, and I thought, what better to go with than the Hall of Fame introduction to kick it off for tonight. So I'll tell you what. Before we start playing any clips, maybe we can give maybe a top 10, maybe one from our top 10 or top 5. Do you want to do the top 10 or top 5?
I mean, we can really do the top 25 if you're talking about great Dusty Rhodes moments. But for the sake of time, I think, we can go 5 or 10. I think let's just start naming great moments, and then, I think eventually we'll get to a stopping point.
Yeah, I know, huh?
whether it's at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 in the morning.
Yeah, you know. And I think one of the ones that really jumped out to me was the classic one that the promos that he could get on there, and I mean, the dude can talk magic. And let me just see if I can get that. But I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and give your favorite moment first, while I look for that quote that I see in his that I'd like to go with as one of my favorite moments that he talked about while he was in the ring. So I'll go ahead. What was one of your favorite moments?
Well, one of my favorite moments was probably in the mid to late 80s, during his run with Jim Crockett Promotions and the National Wrestling Alliance. And you can't pick better opponents than Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. Ric Flair stood for all the glitz and the glamour and the money and that capitalist feel back in those days. And Dusty Rhodes was the common man, the hard-working man, and he cut maybe the greatest promo any wrestler has ever cut, and it's that Hard Times promo. When he's talking about hard times is what's going on with the textile workers that they can't pay their bills and can't get their food on the table, and you work 30 years at a job, and your boss comes to you and gives you a watch, kicks you in the butt, and says a computer took your job, Daddy. Like, he just found a way to connect to the audience, and to me, I think that was probably Dusty's biggest strength, was being able to connect with the fans.
I couldn't agree more. That was definitely one of my favorites. Then again, a lot of his moments were my favorites, whether he was sporting the polka dots, or even going in there and talking about my belly a little big, my hiney a little big, but I'm bad, baby. I'm bad. But here's a quote that I came across that I read that somebody wrote out, and it was perfect because that's what he said in the ring. So I'll read it real quick here. It says, "The man of the hour, the man with the power. I am the hit maker, the record breaker. I got style and grace, a pretty face. I'll make your back crack, your liver quiver, and if you ain't into this match, you're in the wrong address." I hope I said that right. "Superstar, when the other wrestlers are smiling and joking, the dream be, woo, cooking and smoking." And I couldn't do it justice, but I definitely tried. But yeah, that one, I know he was in the ring when he was battling, of course, the likes of Superstar Billy Graham, and those two, my goodness, those two went at it. And for Dusty, he wasn't, how would I put it? He wasn't the physique. He didn't have the physique like a Hogan, like a Superstar. But for a man as big as he was and as agile as he was, he got in there, and to go an hour, it's no joke. An hour in a match, that's just pretty much downright exhausting if you think about it, because you're on the move constantly for 60 minutes, and to go in there with the 60-minute man, woo, Nature Boy Ric Flair, Harley Race, I will get into the WWE days later, but where do we even begin with that? But nonetheless, I'm going to play the very first clip of the night. This goes back to the Mid-Atlantic days. Let's take a listen.
Here's the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty, your fans welcome you back, man.
First of all, I would like to thank the many, many fans throughout this country that wrote cards and letters to Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, while I was down. Secondly, I want to thank Jim Crockett Promotions for waiting and taking the time, because I know how important it was. Starcade 85 it is to the wrestling fans, it is to Jim Crockett Promotions. And Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, with that weight, got what I wanted. Ric Flair, the world's heavyweight champion. I don't have to say a lot more about the way I feel about Ric Flair. No respect, no honor. There is no honor among thieves in the first place. He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family. You don't know what hard times are, Daddy. Hard times are when the textile workers around this country are out of work and got 4 or 5 kids and can't pay their wages, can't buy their food. Hard times are when the auto workers are out of work and they tell them go home. And hard times are when a man has worked at a job 30 years. 30 years. They give him a watch, kick him in the butt, and say, hey, a computer took your place, Daddy. That's hard time. That's hard time. And Ric Flair, you put hard times on this country by taking Dusty Rhodes out. That's hard time. And we all had hard times together. I admit I don't look like the athlete of the day supposed to look. My belly's just a little big. My hind is just a little big. But, brother, I am bad, and they know I'm bad. And there were 2 bad people. One was John Wayne, and he's dead, brother. And the other one's right here. Nature Boy Ric Flair. The world's heavyweight title belongs to these people. I'm going to reach out right now. I want you at home to know my hand is touching your hand for this gathering of the biggest body of people in this country, in this universe, all over the world now. Reach it out, because the love that was given me, and this time I will repay you now, because I will be the next world's heavyweight champion on this Hard Time Blues. Dusty Rhodes Tour 85 and Ric Flair, Nature Boy. Let me leave you with this. One way to hurt Ric Flair is to take what he cherishes more than anything in the world. That's the world heavyweight title. I'm going to take it. I've been there twice. This time when I take it, Daddy, I'm going to take it for you. Let's gather for it. Don't let me down now, because I came back for you, for that man up there that died 10, 12 years ago and never got the opportunity to see a real world champion. And I'm proud of you, and thank God I have you. And I love you. Love you!
That was a classic moment that kind of hit on both the points that Nate and myself talked about with the what did you say about the workers that got replaced? Yeah. Anyways, I'm not going to repeat that because I couldn't. Yeah, the hard times one, and then the belly little big and the hiney little big, but I'm bad, baby.
Yeah, you can't listen to that, Felix, and not say that that's one of the greatest wrestling promos ever cut, man.
You can't, because it's hard to argue that. But I think what made it so passionate what he made him so passionate in this particular scenario with Ric Flair, you obviously had 2 polar opposites as far as attractions, as far as Ric Flair being the styling and profiling and the kiss stealing, wheeling dealing son of a gun, and then you got the son of a plumber, the common man, if you will. And there I go trying to I can't do it, but I'm gonna try. But those kind of rivalries were what made those matches so special. I mean, that run particularly stood out to me as one of the greatest rivalries of all time, because it was just everything was done so well. Those 2, you get those 2 on the mic, and whoo, mercy daddy. I'm going to quote somebody else that just said that, obviously, Jimmy Valiant. Woo, mercy daddy. But I'm not going to be like him and say, because I can't do it like him. But and in their ring battles, going back and forth, you can even include the wars that he had that Dusty would go on and have with the 4 Horsemen. I mean, the Horsemen put a hurting on him like nobody's business, so much so that he finally had to enlist some help to go into battle with these guys, because they were just too much. The Horsemen were bad back then. They were bad. But if I had to throw in another moment, I'm going to throw out one more quick moment before we play our next clip. It had to be the very first time I was introduced to Dusty Rhodes. And this was going back to the late 80s. This is when he had when he had actually arrived on the WWE scene, sporting the polka dots. And I was fairly new to wrestling at that time. And this is what attracted me to him, because not only did he remind me of an uncle that I had, I mean, the same look, the same face, everything looked just like him. And we joke about that in our family now, because he was just a spitting image of an uncle of ours. And to see him get in there, and like I said, he didn't have the best physique, but man, he could just draw you in with his words. He could draw you in with the fact that he was a hell of a performer. And when he brought in Sapphire, as he started his battles with the Macho King and the Sherry, Sapphire was, I think, just a perfect fit, and I know she was such a Dusty Rhodes fan, and it was just an awesome moment. I mean, getting in there to watch them, I want to say it was 1989, because at that it was before he got Sapphire involved, but the match that I was introduced to with Dusty was when Dusty took on, I believe it was the Honky Tonk Man. Was it that one? I think it was the Honky Tonk Man, and before that, I think it was the Boss Man. No, that came later. That's right. The Honky Tonk Man is SummerSlam, and I believe the Boss Man came at Survivor Series, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to check my record books on that one, but yeah, 1989, I was introduced to Dusty and got familiar with his work, and then as time went on, I got more familiar and even went back even further to the Mid-Atlantic NWA, WCW days. But how about you, man? What's another great moment that you enjoyed of Dusty's career?
Yeah, I think I was first introduced to Dusty late on in his run with Jim Crockett Promotions, right before he went to the WWF and put on the polka dots. So we were around the same time. But, you talk about just going back and looking at all these great moments and some of these groundbreaking moments, because you talk about Sapphire, and she wasn't the first African-American female manager, but she was one of the most prominent in a time where, it wasn't commonplace. And, Dusty made her get over like hotcakes, man. Like, a lot of people talk about how that character was kind of a joke on Dusty Rhodes, but that shows you how great Dusty was, because he took something that was supposed to be a joke or might have been a joke against him, and he turned it into one of the more popular characters of that time, just due to his connection with the fans. And that's what I keep going back to with Dusty. It's funny because it's a shame that I think that maybe a guy that looked like Dusty might not get a shot today if he showed up. If Dusty showed up in 2015, they might turn him away at NXT because he doesn't have the right look. But, there was so much more to this guy than how he looked. It was how he talked, how he told a story in the middle of the ring. And so, every now and then we get those once-in-a-generation kind of performers, and Dusty certainly was one of those.
Absolutely. I think the WWE is becoming a little bit more lenient in the fact that they are letting guys we'll go away from our main topic tonight for just a second and talk about Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Now, he's not your quintessential typical WWE looking guy. Neither was CM Punk, but that's another story. I mean, in this case, with Kevin Owens, he's heavier. He's not muscular. He's not what your quintessential, what Vince McMahon would want as a WWE superstar. But I think this is more towards Triple H, leaning towards allowing people that may not be the best looking, best physique, but have that charisma, have that passion, have that drive to be the best. And I think that's what kind of is starting to ease up a little bit. It's not all about the muscles if you can't do anything with those muscles in the ring, or even with your voice to bring the fans in to hear what you got to say. But
true, and you got guys like Owens and Samoa Joe finally starting to break through.
That's another one,
I hope we get more of that, because like Dusty showed us, man, it's not all about the physical packaging, because there's a lot of guys out here that can work, a lot of guys out here that can cut tremendous promos, and hopefully now people will just start to not just look on the outside and focus on the physical stuff.
Absolutely. And we'll go ahead and jump right into our next clip. See if you remember this one. Nate, you dig an old school, and I dig an old school. I think you might like this one.
Back on World Championship Wrestling, this man, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, at one time held that world television title, now held by Tully Blanchard along with Baby Doll.
You know, traveling throughout this country, Dusty Rhodes is recognized everywhere because of his hats, not his eyes, because of his hair, his ability, and his rap. Dusty Rhodes is known all over the world. They don't need to look at my face, my clothes, to know who I am. We're talking about $500,000 a year. Not $100 a week, you understand? That's what we're talking about. Ric Flair going around the country talking about how great he is. I just got a letter from a person named Owens out in Portland that's going to send me a kiss real shortly. That's how strong we are. And Owens, I know that you're listening right now, and I'm going to be banned for you, understand? Because I'm looking for it. Tully Blanchard, Baby Doll, now then, on this day right here, we're going to start taking care of business, and that is my world television title that you got around your waist. Now you got to deal with me, and you got to face the fact that there's no place you can hide, no place you can run, nowhere Baby Doll can stick that ugly face of hers without me finding it. And that's a fact. And facts are, the American dream is the best, is here. And the Koloff will fall to me and Dick Slater very shortly. We gonna take it all. You like this hat?
Sure do.
You better like this hat. That's no lie.
The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and now let's go back to the very happy, as you can tell, the smile on her face. And let's see the slingshot once again, a very impressive move.
Watch that, he slingshot. This gives him extra momentum. He picks him up, powers him over, hard down on the mat. Your winner, World Television Champion Tully Blanchard.
Hey, big boy. Big boy. Just want to come over and give you a little message, because I know how bad you want this. I know how bad.
I'm ready to take it. I'll take it.
Don't you even think about laying a hand on my Tully. And by the way, Rhodes, where they come from in Texas, where I'm from, they tip their hat to a lady.
What about that, Dusty? She got right up in front of you.
Tip their hat to a lady? If I see a lady, I'll tip my hat. Let me tell you something, Baby Doll. Don't be coming out here telling me to tip my hat to you. If you put your hand on this $150 lid, I'll slap them lips on the side of your face. And I don't care if every woman's organization in the country writes me. It's going to happen. Tully Blanchard, now then you got me raw. Tip my hat to a lady. I'd come closer to tipping it to a Jezebel down on the street.
The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and a warning to Baby Doll. We'll be right back.
I'd more likely tip my hat to Jezebel.
Oh, that's great. It's great.
Good stuff, huh? Man. But, you know, you got to think back to the wars that even Tully Blanchard and Dusty had. Tully was definitely one of the best in-ring performers of that time. And Baby Doll, well, she was bad. She was bad to the bone. And she is a former guest of Pipebomb, but my goodness, she would have been one I would love to have gotten on here to tell some stories about Dusty. Because if anybody knew anybody knew about Dusty, it would have been her. She got to work with him close up, and yeah. But if I had to think of another classic moment, it would have to be back to when Dusty won his very first world title, and how he was hoisted up by his colleagues, and then he gives that, if you got a dream, hold on to it and shoot for the stars.
Sounds familiar, brother.
Oh, shit. Oh. I didn't even think about that. I just walked I walked myself into that one, didn't I? But that was a classic moment. I mean, you can't deny that. But what about you, man? What you got? Another favorite moment you want to share?
Oh, definitely. I mean, like I said, we can go on all night with favorite moments. But, again, on the subject of promos, like we just heard a great promo from Dusty, and we all know he could get hyped and get fired up. But one of my favorite promos was from his first stint with the WWF, back when it was the WWF. And Vince McMahon was just an announcer then, and he did that famous empty arena promo. And Dusty got real quiet and real soft-spoken and real serious. You know, he's like, in a moment of hours, this building is going to be filled with all sorts of people. It's going to be Dusty Rhodes loves everybody because there's no color barrier. I don't have a problem even dealing with a black man, a Puerto Rican man, a Greek man, a Chinese man, a Mexican-American, or anybody like that, Vince. And I was just like, this, like he knew how to bring everybody into the tent. He, you know, a big thing these days is baby faces that are too cool for school almost, and that you know that don't really embrace the fans. And Dusty had no shame in his game. Dusty was fighting for us. He was fighting for you. He was fighting for all the people out there, and that's why I think he was so beloved. Even like my aunts and uncles, my parents. You know, when Dusty passed, it resonated. You know, not just in our age group, but fans younger than us and fans older than us.
Very true. And man, that's a good story right there too. But you know, it is what and they referred to him like having. Let me read what I found here. It says, it was the American Dream's uncanny ability to talk to the people in the arena, captivating behind a microphone. Rhodes had a TV preacher's knack to sell his rags to riches story, a skill which was summed up in his most famous line, "I have wined and dined with kings and queens, and I have slept in alley and dined on pork and beans." Yeah, to be compared to as a TV preacher, I don't think I could have described it any better. But got some more clips. We'll keep it going. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say real quick. You know, you bring up the preacher thing. It just was Dusty kind of had the ability to appeal to everybody without changing who he was. Because if you look at him, you know, he can appeal to the rugged Texan, the cowboys out there, but you know, you could tell he was down with the brothers, you know, the black and brown boys, and you know, he just had a way of speaking to everybody and not excluding anybody from being on the Dusty Rhodes train. And I thought that was one of his best skills, is that, you know, he was accessible to everybody without watering down who he really was.
Pretty much. And that's one of the things I think will always be remembered about with Dusty. And I think that's why one of the biggest reasons, too, that as he transitioned into working behind the scenes and working with these young guys, like a Bray Wyatt, like a Kevin Owens, like a what was her name? I'm just drawing a blank for a second there.
Oh, Paige?
Charlotte and Paige and Summer Rae, and
yep.
You know, he loved his kids at NXT. They were his NXT babies and NXT kids. And if there was anybody that could teach people, you can't teach passion, but you can teach how to give, you know, how you would do it. And if they got it, they got it. If they don't, it's obvious you're not going to do it. You're not going to make it. And it's about finding that passion. If you don't have it, but then again, how could you not be passionate listening to Dusty talk about passion? I mean, these kids obviously were heartbroken at the loss of, as I recall, referred to him as one of their mentors. I mean, in discussing that, too, I think you and I even, I'm not sure if it was you and I or maybe in another discussion I had, but I think it might have been you and I, about who would take the place, as if anybody could, if there was a next best bet to have somebody work with the young guys and gals at NXT with their promos. I think it was you. I think it really was you that suggested Arn Anderson.
Yeah, to me, Arn is, you know, you're never going to replace Dusty Rhodes because, you know, you talk about all the NXT call-ups and even people that aren't with the WWE anymore, like Michael Tarver spoke about, you know, the influence that Dusty Rhodes had on his career. But I think Arn Anderson would be a good person to fill that role. And here's another thing. When Dustin retires, when Goldust retires, I think he'd be a good hand to have down there at the Performance Center to help train these kids and carry on his father's legacy.
There you go. All right. We're going to jump into clip number 3, folks. I hope you guys are enjoying the ride so far. If you're feeling like you want to call in and share one of your favorite Dusty moments, before we play the clip, the number to call into the show tonight is area code 347-202-0399 as we celebrate the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
David, and you hear the response from the fans as the superpowers walked out. Nikita Koloff and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
You know what, Tony Schiavone, there's a storm brewing across this great land of ours. Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, and Nikita Koloff are in the eye of that storm. We know what it's like to be in the eye of the storm. Nikita, my man, got me dressed up for Siberia, brother, but remember this. Nikita Koloff, the only man, Ivan Koloff, can walk around Siberia without a shirt on. Don't you be coming out here, Ivan Koloff, start running down Dusty Rhodes, much less Nikita Koloff. You're talking to the American Dream. You over here, Daddy. Whatever Nikita did, he did it because he wanted to, and he has no law. He has nobody to answer to but himself, just like Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Nature boy Ric Flair, color yourself pretty, you understand? Oh, Lord, isn't he pretty? Big cars, fancy rings. Some of the ladies aren't as pretty as he makes them out to be, you understand? You can always find the dog at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? And most of them be roofing. But Dusty Rhodes gets his around 9. Cocktails, dinner, and lunch, and then evening play, you understand? Them are the ladies of the evening. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, comes for Tully Blanchard now, wearing something belong to me. You understand? You need to buy you something. You need to go get you something while you can, because the money now going to come back to Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Nikita Koloff, they going to eat some steel in the next upcoming weeks around this country. Yeah, I'm pretty. I know I'm pretty, but I'm most of all the baddest man around in the world today. Nikita Koloff can do it anytime.
No, Starcade, American Dream was a big test for Nikita. You see, I learned many different things about you, Ric Flair. I learned I can thank you, how you like to say, you best shot, you figure 4, and you know defeat me. I know quit. I know give up. I know, Ric Flair, you cannot defeat me, and I know I can defeat you. You see, it's going to take one mistake, and you're going to get hit with a Russian sickle, and you're going to go down. You see, Ric Flair, it's far from over. And you, Uncle Ivan, you say, I have a dream to be world heavyweight champion. What are you right? And you say you're going to try and stop me. You're going to try to ruin. Or maybe you forget. American Dream said before, for me, there is no law. You see, you cannot stop me. I know I go to Kremlin, to nobody. Uncle Ivan, you stay out of my face. American Dream, Ric Flair is far from over. I will be new world heavyweight champion someday.
Yeah! The Superpowers, and back with more right after this timeout.
Who would ever thought, too, seeing Dusty team up with Nikita Koloff, of all people.
Yes.
And seeing him come out in those big fur coats.
And that was right in the middle of the Cold War too, and that was so cool just to see the American hero and the guy that was the Russian Nightmare come together to form the superpowers, like they said.
Yeah, there you go. Going back into naming some of our favorite moments. Excuse me. I'm going to dip into the WWE again, but this time it was after the Savage battle and rivalry had ended. Well, not completely anyway. Sapphire was starting to get gifts, and nobody could figure out where she was getting. She was getting these extravagant gifts, and which it didn't get exposed to exactly who was doing it just yet, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But ultimately, it would come to. Oh gosh, no, I don't want to. I'll save that for another time. I was going to lead into another moment, but I'll leave it with this one. ultimately would lead to be unveiled at SummerSlam in 1990 as the Macho King took on Dusty Rhodes. But everybody was still wondering, because earlier in the night, Sapphire was to take on the Sensational Queen, but never showed up. So it was revealed at SummerSlam during the match with Dusty and Randy that the $1 Million Man bought Sapphire. And then basically, as it was reported, paid her off and then dumped her off to the side or whatever she was, whatever she went back to doing, whatever she was doing. And that kind of just killed it. And people were so distraught because they really dug Sapphire. I did. I enjoyed what she brought with Dusty, and those two getting funky like a monkey and just having fun. And then when I heard she passed away in 1996, it was disheartening. It was kind of sad because I was a fan, and I always wondered what happened to her. And when you find things out like that, it hurts. But what are you going to do? It happened. We're all going to die eventually.
Yeah, and I'm looking up some of these great moments while we're sitting here talking. You can just tell the genuine affection that Dusty and Sapphire had, and that the admiration for Dusty Rhodes that Sapphire had. And it's just a shame because I do think that they could have done a lot more with that team than they did in the WWF. I guess the one silver lining, if you could say that, was that through all of that stuff with the $1 Million Man, that is how we were introduced to Dustin Rhodes.
That was where we're going to lead into one of my favorite moments right there. But I'll let you go ahead and do that one.
The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and, of course, everyone's favorite wrestling superstar, Virgil. And they were taking on, I believe it was the 91 Royal Rumble?
Yeah, it was.
And it was a tag match with Dusty and Dustin taking on $1 Million Man and Virgil. And, man, you forget just how young Dustin Rhodes was when he first came into the business. And it was just even at that age, you could tell that he had a lot going for him and that he was going to be a star if he kept his head on straight. And unfortunately, the Rhodes family did not win that match, and they weren't in the WWF too much longer after that. But you knew, it's like, oh, man, this Dustin Rhodes kid is going to be good, man. And you got to give a lot of credit to Dusty because we've seen, man, a lot of second-generation stars have had trouble getting out of the shadows of their father or adjusting to that name in the business. And, Dustin had some ups and downs, but, and there was a period of time when him and Dusty did not have the best relationship. But for the most part, and we saw it later on when both made their returns back to the WWE a couple years ago, that, that family dynamic and that love is still there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And before I go into the next clip, I was going to go into what you were touching on with the $1 Million Man, and it took me back to that Saturday night's main event. It was Dusty taking on the Macho King Randy Savage, and Dustin was ringside. You remember that?
Yeah.
And and it was, you knew something was going to happen because you seen the 2 extra seats there, or at least that's what I remember. Anyways, there was a big gap on the front row there that you knew something was going to happen. You felt it, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, here comes the $1 Million Man and Nate's favorite, Virgil. No, I'm kidding. No, but he gets a bad rap. But, I mean, he was what he was. But getting back to the story, and, you try to buy off the front row, and he was paying, if you remember, DiBiase was giving people money to move. He wanted the front row to himself. And as they get up to Dustin just takes it and he ain't going to be bought. He's here to watch his daddy, and that's it. And ultimately, they beat the crap out of him behind Dusty's back, and Dusty comes out and covers his son up, and they busted Dustin wide open, too, with that chair. And ultimately, the match, nobody really focused on the match. The match afterwards was irrelevant because Dusty had to come out and save his boy. And that's where it led to that match that Dustin had with the $1 Million Man that Ted was saying, oh, you couldn't last 10 minutes with me and blah, blah, blah. And, and Superstars, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, Dusty comes out with them, and they have the match. And like you said, Dustin was incredibly young and still pretty new to the business at that time. Although growing up in it, I guess he wasn't really that new. I mean, but getting in the ring, he was still pretty new. And he lasted those 10 minutes, and it just ultimately led to that match at the Royal Rumble, of course, and ultimately led to their departure to come soon after. But that moment definitely stood out to me as well as one moment that you got to see a good father-son bond that continued on. I mean, it was rocky, as you mentioned, but the bonds of father and son, I don't think it could ever really be broken, as we'll talk more about later in the show. But we'll move on to the next clip. I believe this is number 4, and continue on the journey of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Here we go.
This should be very interesting. Thank you, brothers and sisters. My guest this week is not the pizza man. He is not the butcher man. He is not the trash man. No, he is not. He is a marked man.
A marked man?
A man who must pay for his actions. A man who will be judged and condemned by the big boss man. A man who will learn the true meaning of hard times. I introduce to you now that man. You call him the American Dream. Here is Dusty Rhodes.
Well, one thing we'll see, McMahon, you'll see the difference between an athlete and a non-athlete. A what? The Dream.
Oh, man, I like that hat.
Still has the big boss man's night 6. Handcuffs from the doctor of style and Lichter. And you can bet the Dream will have a few comments directed toward the big boss man.
Well, Brother Dream. You know, I have some news for you. You have bitten off a little bit more than you can chew, sticking your nose in the big boss man's business. Wow, man, Brother Love. You talking about me doing hard times? I don't do hard times. I am the good time rock and roll man. And the big boss man, he's so mad now. I got his billy club. Yeah. I got his handcuffs. Ooh, boss man. Made you the judge and jury of Americana. Nobody did. People on the streets now, all the brothers now are saying, we not afraid anymore. I love brother. We not afraid cause Dusty Rhodes Americana now hold the cup. Now hold the club. And now it's gonna be good times in America. Good time Americana. And boss man, whoo, I bet this hurt when you hit somebody with it. How it's gonna feel when I bring it in to you. When I got the cuffs, I got the club, and I got the good times. And woo, I'm gonna tell you something that'll turn you sour. And that's this music, brother. I want this music. Stop the music. Stop it now. I wanna hear some good time rock and roll. I wanna hear some good time common man boogie. Let's get it now, baby. Woo, yeah.
I could just see him dancing on the Brother Love show, and you gotta love Brother Love. I love you. He was so annoying, but I loved him. I respect these guys now, but man, I hated him as a kid. Oh my God, he would get on. Brother Love would know how to push those nerves, because he was like those. He would literally, like he would say when he had him on the show, We had him on the show some time ago, and he was just that TV evangelist type, annoying type character.
Yes.
And he did it well. More power to him. Bruce Pritchard, you were the best, man. But getting to see the American Dream get on there and get funky.
And I think, Felix, that might have been the best part, or one of the best parts about his time in the WWF, was that great theme song. Like, that, to me, that's one of the great theme songs in wrestling history, because it just made you want to get up and dance, and it really encapsulated the spirit of the American Dream. A common man working hard with his hands.
There you go. And if I had to throw out another moment in time, it didn't really involve Dusty, and I'll say because he was not only a wrestler, he was also backstage. He was a booker. He obviously worked with. He tried to moniker his likeness as far as a booker goes, as far as a person who ran the territory, like his mentor, legendary Eddie Graham. But working in WCW, and I want to say this is, I can't remember exactly in 1992, but I know it was sometime in 92. Ron Simmons winning the world title.
Yes.
Now that was Dusty. Dusty set that up to happen, and it made history with that. And that moment stood out to me because I remember watching Ron defeat Vader. And Vader, he was bad. That man, Vader was unlike any big man out there at that time. Agile as he was, strong as he was, and man, I heard he would potato the hell out of your head, and then some. But that stood out to me because it was historic. Because as a booker, you didn't see things like this happen very often. Let me rephrase it. As a fan, you didn't see things like this happen. But as a booker, he had a mind for the business. He was a super genius, as they called him, as Paul Heyman would call him. When he went in there, and I'll get to that other story later. But Paul Heyman Dusty referred to himself as a super genius, and it's hard to argue that fact.
Yeah.
But was there another moment that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, that Ron Simmons moment was a great moment, and it just shows you just how ahead of his time Dusty was. He's been credited as one of the great minds behind concepts like War Games, concepts like Starrcade, concepts like the Great American Bash, and even, in TNA, he was leading some of their more innovative stipulation matches and things like that. But again, getting back to the Ron Simmons thing, it just shows me how progressive Dusty was, because, it's 2015, and there haven't been a whole heck of a lot of black world champions since. I think you could probably count the number on one hand, but to have that moment, and have that moment happen in the South, of all places, was pretty cool. And so that mid '90s WCW time was pretty cool with Dusty, because not only do you talk about the booking aspect and coming up with the creative ideas, but one of my favorite memories of Dusty was when he was a commentator, and he'd just come up with these crazy saying that, Tony, he's going to see if he can win and go to the pay window, or when they would have the little beat downs, and he's like, when you got all four hands hitting on one man, that's called a clubbering, Tony. And it was just so great. And it was just, there was not a whole lot of guys that could capture your imagination on the microphone like Dusty.
Amen. But we're going to do one more quick clip, and we've got a phone call on hold here. Be patient with us. We'll get to you right now. We're going to play one more. We're going to play another clip and then get on to the phones here. Another clip for you for the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Well, sir, right now, let's bring on the reigning Worldwide Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion, the man who, when he probably got back to the dressing room in Boston, went, phew, because, Mr. Graham, you almost lost.
I was sweating. Matter of fact, I was, as you know very good and well, I was carried back to the locker room. The man literally, bodily, physically, and maliciously and viciously threw me over the top rope against the plexiglass used in the hockey matches and ruptured practically my spleen and I was carriedly, physically drugged back to the locker room, and the belt was drugged behind me by the skin of my teeth. I held on to this belt, unaware that the American dream was so vicious, unaware that he meant business. But now that I know he means business, I'm going to be on the defense. The Grand Wizard covered my plan, right, Grand Wizard? Defense, defense, defense.
That's right, defense all the way. The superstar and I are aware of the viciousness that lies between the evil heart of Dusty Rhodes. Well, American Dream, you're going to be in for quite a surprise in Boston, because the superstar and I do have the new strategy, and you, son of a plumber, gone down the drain, little tidy bowl man.
The Grand Wizard of Wrestling along with superstar Billy Graham. Right now, we did indeed make reference to the ranked #1 contender earlier. Let's bring on the son of a plumber. Let's bring on a man whose dream appears to unquestionably be on the proper path to come true.
I just was rapping before I come up here to probably one of the greatest athletes in our country today, Bob Backlund. And he told me, he say, if they got a good defense, he said you got to counter it with a good offense. And it's very true, because the American dream is offensively. You know, I'm minded that way. I'm geared to offense, you understand? I'm geared to moving. I'm geared to jabbing. I'm geared to moving. I'm geared to takedowns. I'm geared to taking superstars Billy Graham's big 22-inch arm in my hands and ripping up on it. And he be talking about, I was hurt. You know what was hurt about superstar Billy Graham? His feelings were hurt. His feelings were hurt because when he went home, his whoever he was with say, boy, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for letting that man jump on you like that and nearly beat you half to death. So Weasel went out and got loaded on milk and everything. It was so messed up he didn't know where it was going or what it was doing. The whole town was electrified. It's going to happen. Superstar Graham will find the end of a rainbow. The dream will win in Boston.
Classic clip between superstar Billy Graham and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I can't do his, I swear, I cannot do an impression. Next time, if we ever do a Dusty tribute, part 2 or so forth, we've got to do a best imitation of Dusty. We did that for the Macho Man Randy Savage last year when we did a tribute for him. And everybody on this planet that knows, if you don't know Dusty Rhodes, then you must be hidden under a rock or something. Who doesn't know Dusty? Who hasn't tried to imitate Dusty Rhodes? I know I have. I know Nate has. I'm sure Austin has in his time, and I'm even sure Jordan has too, and all the other people that have been part of Pipebomb. Hell, I'm sure even Elio has done it too. But it just makes it fun, because you know what? Even I'll take me back to one quick story here before we bring on our caller. I was watching a clip of it was Cody coming on talking about his battle with losing to the Big Show at WrestleMania, and how they were going back and forth on trying to outdo the other with clips of making themselves look embarrassing and so forth, and Dusty coming out and trying to talk some sense into his boy, and Big Show comes out and tries to and basically imitates him, and Dusty just like, hey, you know, it is what it is. It's true, you know, because he was calling Cody was doing that whole dashing Cody Rhodes gimmick, and his papa just going in there, just having fun, getting in there, and when his music played, he just started getting funky like a monkey and just getting down. It just took me back to that flashback of SmackDown back, I think it was 2011. 2010? No, I'm sorry, 2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
Yes.
But before we go ahead any further, we do have a caller who's been patiently waiting. We're going to go ahead and bring him on and have him share his favorite Dusty Rhodes moment. You're on the air with Felix and Nate. How you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good, brother.
All right. This is Jacob from Brooklyn. One thing I remember about Dusty Rhodes is, like I said, when I used to live in Virginia, I used to always go around to the Crockett towns and cut a lot of grass to go to those shows.
Oh,
and
hey.
One thing I noticed, one thing that you got to give him credit is that even when he took on the Horsemen, he made stars out of everybody. Sam Houston, Magnum TA, Ronnie Garvin, made Ronnie Garvin world champion.
Yep.
All the guys that rolled with him, even when Magnum went down, he made Nikita Koloff, brought up Barry Windham.
Yep.
And he also one another thing too. He also made all those belts, not just the world belt, significant, but he made the television belt, the national heavyweight belt, the U.S. belt. They all fell into place, and they were all part of the show, even the tag belt.
Absolutely. Make very great points. I mean, I didn't even think about the fact of Magnum TA, but you're right. Magnum TA, Ronnie Garvin, these are all ideas of Dusty. Dusty, and he made a lot of them stars just with the association. I mean, they got to get in there and get down with the Horsemen, and like I was saying earlier, the Horsemen they were as bad could be, and if there was anybody that could stand up against them, it was the American Dream. Wow.
He always took the licking and keep on ticking.
There you go. There you go.
One promo before I talk about the WWF stuff is one promo I remember he did against Ric Flair. He was like, well, I can't do a Dusty imitation either. He was like, you need to tell the Horsemen to go away because I saved the stratosphere for me and you, Ric Flair.
There you go. There you go. I remember that too. That was a good one. I remember that one.
Yeah, as far as the WWF stuff, the stuff that reminded me is like, you talk about guys who were supposed to have gimmicks that they weren't supposed to succeed, but they succeeded regardless, like him, Demolition, and the Honky Tonk Man. I put them all three together for the simple fact is no one ever thought that these three, if you look at Dusty, he had the polka dots, who would have thought? You have the Demolition, they were supposed to be Road Warrior wannabes, they still got over, and the Honky Tonk Man with the Elvis gimmick when he first came in was a good guy, wasn't supposed. All three of them to me, they're linked as far as that WWE run.
Yeah.
Is they got over despite their obstacles.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Definitely.
So Dusty Rhodes will always have a special place as far as even his rivalries or his adversaries, whether it be Baby Doll, whether it be Honky Tonk, $1 Million Man. He left his legacy. I mean, say what you want to say about the Dusty finish, but it's still the one thing about the Dusty finish is you wanted to go to the next town, but you also wanted to go to the next town after.
Yeah.
And rest in peace, Dusty. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for calling
man.
in.
Thank you for calling.
All righty. And we'll move on to the next clip of the night. But he made a lot of great valid points and great memories there. And when you stop and think about it, I mean, during that time, who would have thought? I mean, in reality, for years and years and years, it didn't occur to me. Well, not that many years, but that Demolition was more of a knockoff of the Road Warriors. But they did get over. They were over huge, And then ultimately, when they got rid, in my opinion, when they got rid of Axe, it went downhill after that. Just my opinion. But and then the Honky Tonk Man, baby.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that annoying Elvis gimmick worked? And it has been working for 30 years. As annoying as he is now and back then, it worked. I mean, he made it work, and God bless him for that, And of course, Dusty. I mean, people were so outraged with the polka dots, and regardless of that outrage, it was a paycheck. He was still feeding his family. He still had his wife Michelle, who was 37 years married. That is such a rare thing these days. You don't ever. Couples can barely make it to an hour, let alone 37 years.
Yeah, especially.
You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, people are in that divorce stage, taking you to court stage, be like, let's get married. Next day, I don't want to get married. Let's get this on hold. Like, what the hell? Marriage is supposed to be sacred, folks. Hello.
Right, especially when you're talking about, somebody that is a celebrity. Celebrity marriage, regular marriages don't last long, but celebrity marriages are even worse. Especially, when your spouse is on the road and as committed as somebody like Dusty Rhodes was. But to his credit, man, you know, he always talked about his wife, and you know, he, like we mentioned, he had some ups and downs with Dustin, but you could tell how important his family was to him, and that foundation that allowed him to be the American dream.
There you go. And we'll jump right into our next clip. Keep this party going. Let's see. Oh, here we go.
Woo! Have no fear, the son of plumbers. What's going on, baby? What can I do for you?
Thank God you're here.
I'm here to check your plumbing. You know that. Now, let me ask you a couple questions. Is the dinger dinging?
No, the dinger's not dinging.
Is the ringer ringing?
And the ringer's not ringing.
Is that water like, I'm trying to think now, is it like real crystal clear? You know what I'm talking about, Mama?
No.
It's not?
No.
Who? Is it brown?
It's bad. Dark brown.
You talking about chocolate brown?
Coming.
Woo! I got just the thing. We got to fix this, Mama. Woo-wee. Ooh, wow! We got a mess here. Look at this barbecue. Ooh, I wonder what that is. I can't see what that is down there. Whoa! Woo! That's worse than I thought, Mama. Listen, you don't want to see this thing now. I got to do a potty bypass. If you ain't seen one of these, you don't want to be looking. You're too pretty to be seen that. You step outside, I'm going to take care of business. Hey, leave the good doctor with his tools. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to take care of this thing. Ooh, that's hard, too. But I got to get into it. Business time. Ooh, yeah. Oh, baby. Whoa, Lordy. Honey, open door. Open door. I got something for you. Woo-wee. Oh, yeah, look at what I do. What I do, let me get this out and show you. What I do, I did the first ever triple potty bypass. I mean, 43 pounds. Look at it. Look at it. Woo-wee. It is beautiful. Don't want to break it, baby. Don't want to break it. Woo, I got some unfinished business to do. Matter of fact, a little cosmetic surgery. Ooh-wee. She gonna be proud of this. Hey, darling, Mama, come in here. I want to show you something now. Look at this. Ooh, ho. Hey, your pride and joy is ready. Take a look here. Hey, no more tidy bowl. You know what I mean? No more janitor in a drum. No more Drano, if you will. I mean, this here is ready for Better Homes and Gardens. Take a picture of this. Ooh, let me ask you, is it ringing? Is it dinging? All right, test time. I like you. Put your finger on that thing and listen to this music. Woo-hoo, you in business now. And I'm on the cover of Plumbers Weekly. Yeah, woo!
Hey, aren't you?
Is the ringing, and the dinging? Oh, my goodness. Those classic common man vignettes from way back in the day. I got one more to put off, and that'll be it for the clips. But otherwise, what did you think of those vignettes that they used to do back then?
It's funny because as somebody that was watching Dusty in the NWA, like when I first saw it, I'm sure a lot of fans are like, they felt it was being disrespectful. But if you look back at him now and listen to him now like we just did, man, you can tell, like Dusty, like our caller said, Dusty took something that probably shouldn't have worked, and he made it work just because he knew how to connect with the people, and he knew how to have a good time, and he didn't take himself too seriously, and I think that was a big part of his success.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better myself. And we'll finish off the clips right now with this last and final clip, and then we'll have our closing moments, and there you go. Be back in just a moment, guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can trust your car to the man that wears the star. How you doing? Welcome to America Gas.
Hi.
We're pumping gas. I'm making a blast. How you doing, darling? What can I do for you?
Just fine. I'd like $5 of super lettuce.
You would? I bet you would. Hold on just a minute there. How you doing today?
Just fine.
You sure are. Pretty thing. You got a fine-looking automobile. I love fine-looking automobiles. $5 worth of gas coming up.
Somehow
from
I thought you
America Gas. Huh?
Partial to pretty things.
All right, partial to pretty. Let me get that window for you. I'm going to check that all for you now.
You don't have to. I'm sure.
No, you need your all checked. I'm telling you now. I'm going to check it.
Okay, pop.
You can trust your car to the man that wears the star.
Yes, ma'am. Woo, this is hot. Oh, yeah, this is hot. Yeah, have you ever seen a dipstick, baby? Look at here, nice and clean. I'm going to put it back in there, and I bet you it's all the way full, because I know you're the kind of woman that takes care of your automobile. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think I'll have you taking care of it from now on.
Full to the top. I mean, it won't take another bit of oil. $5 worth of gas. Now, man, I don't want to drop one right here. Woo! Whoa! Just hit it.
See,
just hit it.
I'm on a tight budget this week.
I'm on a budget myself. We'll get that window for you, too.
Oh, you don't have to. You're awfully friendly.
I am friendly. I am friendly to man, women, and beasts. There's nothing like Americana gas. Everybody needs gas. Everybody needs fuel. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you sure make pleasure stopping in here and getting fuel.
Oh, yeah. I've been doing this most of my natural-born life. You meet pretty ladies like this, too.
Oh, do you?
Yes, ma'am. Friends benefit. Oh. Yeah, you got a little something on your window here. Look like them love bugs from down there south somewhere. Yeah. That'll get it off. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. That's a piece of work. Yeah, baby, I got one more thing to say. Your gas tank is full. Your dipstick is in. Your windows washed. Y'all come back and see me again.
Hey, aren't you?
My goodness. But yeah, that, those Common Man vignettes were fun to watch because and then to realize what they would. I think they had him as a butcher, as a pizza man.
Yeah, the pizza man was probably my favorite one.
And then we go back into talking about a few more moments. Fast forward to 2005, the WWE Raw Homecoming, and you think about all the legends that were gathered in the ring, and right in the middle of them all, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and former guest of ours, Rob Conway, decided he wanted to cross the ledges, thinking these old guys ain't gonna do nothing. They're past their prime, and he's the young buck thinking that he's going to try to puff up his chest to these old timers, and well, he learned the hard way. You don't want to do that, because not only did he get a bionic elbow, he got a claw from Kevin Von Erich. He got a Superfly Splash from Jimmy Snuka. Yeah, I'd say Rob Conway learned things the con way, but more likely the hard way. And you go on and you think about, obviously we talked about the Great American Bash. You think about the match that he had with Randy Orton.
Yes.
Getting in the ring with a high-class caliber athlete, as Randy is considered these days, and even for the last, I want to say 12, 13 years now. And Dusty could still get in there and get crazy and get funky and have a great match. I mean, it was a Texas bull rope match, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, he did lose, but you know what? The fact that he got in there and showed these young bucks how to do things, and I thought it was awesome, I could just go on and mention the last several years, seeing Dusty get involved with Cody quite a bit, and working with the NXT guys, being there when Seth Rollins won the very first NXT World Heavyweight title. You think about the WWE Hall of Fame when Dustin and Cody were. I remember that night so vividly. It was such an amazing night at the Fox Theater in Detroit. I was there in the audience, not bragging, just very proud to be there. I guess you could say it was bragging a little bit.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. But it was such a historic night, and to top it off with Dusty getting out there and cutting one of his infamous promos like he did, and. You just when he would talk, it was like the whole world would stop and listen, and that's what it was. And you give credit because you know what, Dusty created a legacy unlike no other. And then you move on to Dustin, and you can't take nothing away from him because you know what, he went out on his own, out of the shadows. He really did jump out of the shadows of Dusty and created a legacy for himself. Albeit it was one of the most unlikely characters in WWE history, wrestling history for that matter, as Goldust. People are wondering what, and Cody's created a legacy for himself so far. He's still very young and still has a long, long career ahead of him. And you know what, Dustin, if he's wanting to come back, I really believe he could. And more power to him. You know what, these guys, when they're ready, you know the WWE Universe is going to welcome them back with open arms. And I would love to see Cody drop the Stardust gimmick and come back and just be Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
It would be, you know, he don't have to come back and sport the polka dots. It ain't about that. Although it would be funny to a point. It would be something to smile about. But not something to mock his father in any way, because it wasn't about mocking. It was about having fun. And, you know, you think about all these moments in time, even going back to WrestleMania this past year. I think it was one of the WrestleMania specials that Dusty was talking about working with the Macho Man Randy Savage. And the intensity that Randy had was unlike no other. And even with, what's her name, Maria Menounos, doing that infamous Dusty promo, with Dusty right there, she kind of got put on the spot, and she pulled it out. She didn't do too bad. I'll give her credit. She didn't do too bad at all. And then to get the news just earlier this month, it really knocked the wind out of everybody. Now, ultimately, when a legend leaves this world, it's not something, I mean, obviously you're going to be sad. You're going to mourn their passing. You're going to wish they were still here. But it was something about Dusty that you really wanted. You're going to mourn his death, of course. You're going to be sad. But at the same time, it's almost like you want to celebrate what he did, what he brought, who he was, and what he meant to so many people. And I think that ultimately it was just to celebrate the dream, really. And I think they did that tribute so well. They touched on a lot of what was in his DVD they made several years ago. And then to touch on the last, I think it was 8 to 10 minutes of that tribute, having the NXT people and colleagues and so forth talk about what Dusty meant to them, that's what tugged on the heartstrings a little more. I'm not going to lie, it even tugged on mine a little bit. But Triple H definitely helped make sure people never forgot or never will forget. And to take away from Goldie for a second, they will never forget the name of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I try to do that a little bit, see if I can include that. But you know what? And it's good. People shouldn't forget, because the man was a genius. He was a genius, and so many people tried to imitate him, often imitated, quite often, in fact, but could never be duplicated.
No.
If there's one thing that you could take away, if there was one word to sum up the legendary career of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, if you could think of one word, what would you go with?
It'd probably be the word I keep going back to with Dusty, and that's connection. You know, he was always able to make a connection with the fans, you know, whether it's in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s or even in the 2000s when he was in ECW or when he was at TNA one of my favorite memories of Dusty more recently was at Battleground a couple years ago. And that was a bad show. It was a terrible show, but the one bright moment on that show was the tag match with the Rhodes brothers against the Shield. And Dusty was in Cody and Dustin's corner, and, you know, it was the three guys in the Shield. And that had to be such a cool moment for Dusty, because not only were his sons there, but you mentioned that the effect and the input he had with NXT, you know, you've got probably arguably three of NXT's best graduates. You know, in the Shield, going up against his sons, and you know, it's easy when people die to say a lot of good things about them. You know, even Richard Nixon had people saying good stuff about him, but Dusty is one of the few people in this wrestling business, you know, which we know has a lot of characters that nobody had a bad word to say about Dusty. Everybody talked about how good he was, how much he loved his family, how great he was in the ring, how great he was on the mic, and I think that all goes back to having that connection, Felix, with people, whether it's in the arena or whether you're watching them on TV or whether, you know, you're one of the wrestlers and you're riding up and down the road with Dusty. I think he knew how to make a connection with people.
There you go. There's not much more than you can say than, you know, he was the American Dream. And as they did in that ending tribute, and until we meet again, Dusty, happy trails to you. But to conclude that, we definitely want to touch on a few topics before we end the show tonight. I hope you all enjoyed this tribute that we did for the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. It was just, looking at it from a fan's perspective, I mean, to talk about his career, every aspect of it, 2 hours is not long enough. Hell, 3 hours isn't long enough, like they have for Raw. The man has done so many things. We probably didn't even scratch the surface of what he's done, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. But I think for what we did, I hope you all enjoyed it. As far as what we got planned next week on Pipebomb Radio, we will continue on at our regular scheduled time next week as we welcome to the show the Patriot, Del Wilkes. He comes to the show to discuss not only his career in pro football, I believe it was pro football, well, we'll talk about that next week, and also his career in pro wrestling. Not to mention that his current documentary, which is being done by a former guest as well, Michael Elliott, from Elbow Productions, going to be on, may even pop in and say hello. But Del has been on quite a number of shows recently. He was on IHWE's show a couple of weeks ago. He was on the Stone Cold podcast just recently. And he joins us next Tuesday night to talk about everything in between. Who is Del Wilkes? If you ever wondered who the Patriot or ever will be, tune in next Tuesday night and find out. But we will continue on also and talk about other things real quick. Got a couple topics we can talk about before we conclude. Number one, what is on the horizon for Marcus and for Nate?
Well, Brother Felix, there's a lot of stuff on the horizon this week on the Kings of Sport, which you can hear every week on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are found. Marcus and I, the show that's up right now, we're talking about the NBA draft. We're talking about Puff Daddy beating up his son's football coach, and we're talking about TNA wrestling. But the show that'll be up this week, it's going to be a fun conversation because we are doing a crossover, if you will, an invasion angle where the Kings of Sport talk to the two hosts of the Atomic Podcast. So that should be a fun show, and we'll also be talking about NBA off-season moves. So you can check out the Kings of Sport on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook.com/the Kings of Sport, and hit us up on Twitter, KOS_POD.
There you have it. Now, going off topic for a second, one of the most shocking moments this year for TNA Wrestling was the return of Jeff Jarrett.
Yes.
Nobody saw that coming. The surprises didn't stop there. Matt Morgan returned. I believe we heard there was one other surprise I'm drawing a blank on.
It was Vader time.
Vader, that's right, Vader. There was another surprise. There you go. He made an appearance on Impact, and I heard it was quite a show. Now, the idea of having the Jarretts show up on Impact caught a lot of people off guard, not knowing exactly what to expect from this appearance. Obviously, it led to one more match for Jeff at Slammiversary this past weekend in the King of the Mountain match, which was an invention I believe Jeff had created, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And, everything happened quickly, and people are assuming that maybe with maybe there'll be an invasion angle with Global Force invading Impact Wrestling, or vice versa, or the speculation being that maybe the Jarretts are going to be there to buy out the Carters and combine the two companies into one and take it global. And let me tell you, Jeff was still considered a minority shareholder of TNA Wrestling, or so I've been told. But to take complete control back over it, I don't see how it couldn't be possible. If anybody could build up the company, Jarrett could. I mean, Jerry and Jeff both built that company up, needed the finances, so they brought in the Carters. And, well, we already know the troubled history that happened between the Jarretts and the Angles, but that's another story. Ultimately, bygones are bygones, and they've all moved on. But it brought a lot of curiosity as far as what Jeff is doing on TNA Wrestling. only time will tell, folks. I mean, obviously we've seen this past Sunday night that two things. Now, one thing is that they created a new championship belt yet again, the King of the Mountain Championship, which, of all people, Jeff Jarrett won it. See, that again, with the speculation as to what exactly is going to happen with the Jarretts and Global Force, and will the world title still be validated in the company, as EC3 will face Kurt Angle this Wednesday on Impact, which still confuses a lot of people, like why the hell that happened. But you know what? I'm going to turn this over to Nate because you follow TNA a lot more than I do, and you've been kind of talking about this, I'm sure, quite a bit. I'm curious to hear your input on this whole situation.
Yeah, well, it's interesting with Jeff Jarrett, Felix, because I think there's a lot of different ways this could go down. I know there's been reports that Jarrett is going to be inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame, which a lot of people never thought would happen due to the friction between Jeff and the Carters. I think, this could either be something as simple as just an invasion angle on TV, or it could be a path to Jarrett buying out Dixie and buying out the Carter family, which I think would be the best thing for the company. Nothing against Dixie or her family, but you can't keep doing the same thing one way and not get results and think that eventually it's going to magically work out. And I think Jeff is somebody that you can see he's got an eye for talent. Magnus has already finished working for TNA, and he signed with Global Force. He's got a lot of good, young, talented workers on the indies coming to work for him. So I think my big problem with Jeff back in the TNA days when he was running things was that it was all about Jeff Jarrett. But I think now he's to the point where he's not a full-time competitor anymore. And so I think he'd be the perfect person to kind of get this company back up on their feet, whether it continues as TNA or whether he rebrands the whole thing Global Force. But I'd love to see what Jeff Jarrett could do with this company.
There you go. And with all these changes, these surprises, with Matt Morgan returning, I'm sure it'll be on a limited time as it is anyway, but that's by his choice. But that's besides the point. Do you think that combining the two would be smart, and if so, could they move it to a different network that'd be more visible? Because let's be honest, Destination America, it's not seen everywhere. It's only a very limited amount of people that can get that channel without having to pay for it, or it's not on their cable lineup. So therefore, they're really missing the boat on this. And getting on a network that can be visible, dare I say Ion, dare I say, big dare I say on this one, of TNT. I don't know if Turner will ever get involved with that stuff again. I don't think even Turner's even involved in wrestling at all, period. I believe he's retired now, if I'm not mistaken. But a network that's more visible, so therefore the fans can get more access to it. I, for one, would love that because, let's be honest, WWE doesn't always cut the cake. And a lot of the times their storylines are just be honest, they're stupid. Not saying that TNA has better storylines, because they don't. They really don't. And if I remember what you were telling me a couple of weeks ago about EC3 running for president, hello, what the hell is wrong with this picture?
Or Mickey James getting pushed onto a train track.
And then I guess what's his name, James Storm kicking a baby.
Yeah, James Storm kicked the baby stroller.
Oh, my Lanta. I believe Storm was done with TNA too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Magnus, Storm, and Austin Aries. They've Slammiversary was their final night with the company.
There was speculation that Kong was gone too.
Yeah, but apparently both her and Taryn are still signed with the company.
Oh, okay. But yeah, interesting ideas where they're going with this company. Hopefully it does something more positive for the fans, because I, for one, want to see it succeed, whether it be Global Force and TNA separate or them combined as one. Because when there's competition out there, when there's something else to watch, when it's not always flooded with WWE, as WWE is pretty much flooded in all the networks as it is now, you get an alternative. And you need an alternative because nowadays you don't have it. They've ruled the roost for the last 15 years. Somebody else needs to step up and give them some kind of contention, something for the fans to want to watch. I mean, I know it's the internet age now, and everything's on the internet now, but still, come on. I mean, I'm not trying to recreate the Monday Night Wars because, to be honest, it's just not going to happen. But never say never.
We got the Wednesday Night Wars now. We got Lucha Underground on Wednesday, NXT, TNA, and ROH on Wednesday.
Yeah, there you go. But it's just we'll see what happens with that. I mean, we got Battleground coming up in a couple weeks. As far as the guys go on Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of things that they're going to be up talking about would be, I believe Oscar had mentioned that he's going to be bringing on one of their former opponents, if you will. Men on a mission opponents, and that being Jacques Rougeau of the Quebecers.
Yes.
And I guess he had finally reached out to Jacques, and Jacques agreed to come on. Now, I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen, but that was the idea they were going with. And also with Oscar coming back out of the New England Fan Fest that he came from this weekend, looks like that was a pretty good success. A very big success, in fact. All the great legends and superstars that were out there posing and taking pictures and so forth. Going to be hearing all about that and so much more. You never know who's going to call in. We had a lot of people call in that we didn't expect to hear from, and the last couple of weeks they've been kind of knocking it out of the park. Then going back to that Eternal Tranquility benefit show that they did with that all-star cast, holy cow, that was one of their best shows yet. One of their most highest listened to, highest rated shows ever. I think that even put us up there too. But it's they knocked us out of the top contention for a little bit because we had those ones with the Von Erichs that really kicked us into high gear, and not to mention the one with Bret Hart.
Yep.
But nonetheless, that will bring us to a close here for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed this tribute we did to the American Dream. We've got Del Wilkes next week. Kings of Sports coming on Wednesday night. Now, for Pipebomb Radio, we want to check out pipebombradio.net. For all of our social media, we have the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, which will be updated soon. So if you guys are wondering, we'll get that updated very soon. And so much more. Now, other than that, I think we'll go ahead and call it a night. Hope Nate, you enjoyed tonight's show. I think I did as well. A lot of good reminiscing about a very, very good man, and we send our best wishes to their family. But for now, on behalf of Nate and myself for Pipebomb Radio, this is Felix saying keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Night, Nate.
Reach for the stars, Daddy.
There you go.
Amen.